Welcome to Legacy Coins, and before we dive in, I want you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what you are about to hear might just change the way you look at every single coin you have ever held in your hand. Imagine this. You are cleaning out your grandmother's old house, moving boxes from the attic, dusting off forgotten jars of loose change sitting on a shelf that nobody has touched in decades, and buried deep inside one of those jars, mixed in with ordinary pennies and nickels, sits a tiny copper coin that looks completely unremarkable, completely forgettable, the kind of thing you would toss into a fountain without a second thought. But here is the thing. That coin, that one humble 1999 Lincoln Memorial cent, is not ordinary at all. In fact, depending on what is stamped on it, depending on what the mint accidentally did or did not do on the day it was struck, that single 1 cent coin could be worth up to $139 million. Yes, you read that right. $139 million for a penny. And that is exactly what we are talking about today. Now, before we go any further, I want you to stay locked in until the very end of this video, because today we are not just talking about one legendary coin. We have another coin coming up later in this script that is even more jaw-dropping, even more mysterious, and the story behind it is so shocking that even seasoned numismatists, that is what coin experts call themselves, were left absolutely speechless when the details came out. I am not going to tell you what it is just yet, but I promise you, by the time we get there, your hands will be shaking. So do not go anywhere. Let us go back to 1999. The United States Mint was operating at full speed, producing billions of Lincoln cents across multiple facilities. The primary mints striking pennies that year were Philadelphia, which uses no mint mark, and Denver, which stamps a small letter D beneath the date. In 1999, the Philadelphia Mint alone produced over 9.3 billion pennies. Denver added several billion more. The sheer volume of coins being produced at that time was staggering. And with such industrial scale production running at breakneck speed, something extraordinary becomes almost inevitable. Mistakes happen. In the world of rare coins, mistakes are everything. The 1999 Lincoln cent family includes some of the most talked about error coins in modern American numismatic history. Among the most sought after is the 1999 wide AM variety. Now, here's where things get incredibly interesting. On a standard Lincoln Memorial cent, if you flip the coin over and look at the word America on the reverse side, the letters A and M in America are positioned very close together, almost touching. This is the close AM design that was standard for circulation coins throughout most of the 1990s. But here's where the story twists. Some 1999 pennies were accidentally struck using a proof die, which features a wide AM design, meaning there is a noticeable gap between those two letters. This error came from mix-up at the mint, where proof coin dies intended only for specially made collector sets, were accidentally used on coins meant for everyday circulation. The result was a hybrid coin, born from a beautiful bureaucratic blunder that today sends collectors into an absolute frenzy. When a 1999 wide AM cent was first identified, the numismatic community erupted. Here was a coin that had been sitting in people's pockets, change jars, and couch cushions for years, completely unrecognized. Some of these coins had probably been spent at vending machines or tossed in tip jars. The thought alone is enough to make a collector lose sleep. The wide AM variety from 1999 is now confirmed to exist in very limited quantities, and certified examples and top grades have sold for extraordinary sums at auction. A coin that started its life as a 1 cent piece, intended to buy a fraction of a piece of candy, has now ascended into the rarefied air of high-end numismatic treasure. But the story of the 1999 penny does not end with a wide AM error. There are other anomalies reported from this year that push the legend even further. Collectors have documented double die obverse examples, where the hub used to create the die impressed the design twice at a very slight angle. creating a visible doubling effect on key features like the date, Lincoln's portrait, and the inscriptions, "I in God we trust," and "Liberty." When you hold a genuine double die 1999 cent under a loupe or a magnifying glass and you see that eerie, ghosted double image on Lincoln's face, it feels like you're holding a secret the mint never intended to share with the world. These double die examples, when found in gem uncirculated condition, command prices that defy all reason for a 1 cent coin. And then there is the die cap error, one of the most visually dramatic mint errors that can occur on any coin. Imagine a planchet, the blank metal disc that gets struck to become a coin, getting stuck inside the press and adhering to the die itself. When the press continues operating, subsequent coins get struck not by the die, but by the coin acting as the die, creating bizarre, bottle cap shaped pieces with distorted, almost alien looking impressions. A confirmed 1999 Lincoln cent die cap error is the kind of piece that makes even veteran dealers stop and stare with their mouths open. Now I need you to stay with me here, because I promised you something earlier. I told you that the next coin we're going to cover has a story so unbelievable that it makes even the 1999 penny look modest by comparison. I am still not going to reveal the exact details yet, because I want you to experience every moment of this journey. But I will say this much. It comes from a year not too far from 1999. It carries a mint mark that most people would overlook entirely, and its discovery caused absolute chaos in the auction world. The number attached to it will make your stomach drop. So please, do not touch that back button because we are getting there. Back to 1999, let us talk about what makes finding one of these special pennies feel like striking oil. The challenge, the beautiful and maddening challenge, is that to the naked eye, an extraordinary 1999 cent looks almost identical to the billions of completely ordinary ones produced that same year. You cannot tell at a glance. You have to know what to look for. You need to check the AM spacing on the reverse. You need to examine the lettering for doubling. You need to look for die cracks, rotated reverses, offsetter strikes, and other anomalies that mark a coin as something far beyond ordinary. This is why so many of these coins are still out there, still circulating or sitting forgotten in collections, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize them. There are documented stories of people who found wide AM cents in everyday pocket change, at garage sales, and inherited coin folders. One collector reportedly purchased a small lot of unsorted pennies from an estate sale for just a few dollars and found a 1999 wide AM in near mint condition buried among the clutter. When he had it certified and graded, the value assessment left him shaking. Stories like this are not myths. They are the living, breathing heartbeat of why people keep searching, keep checking, keep looking. The population of confirmed, certified high-grade 1999 error cents is astonishingly small relative to the billions produced. In the world of coins, rarity is the engine that drives value, and when rarity collides with a coin that was meant to be the most common denomination in circulation, something almost poetic happens. A 1 cent coin becomes a symbol of everything that makes numismatics extraordinary. The idea that history, human error, and pure luck can transform the mundane into the magnificent. The next time you get change back at a store, the next time you spot a penny on the ground, or reach into an old drawer, pause for just a moment. Look at the date. Check the mint mark. Flip it over and examine that word America with care. Because somewhere out there, a 1999 penny worth up to $139 million is still waiting to be found. And if you thought that story was incredible, just wait, because the next coin we are about to cover takes everything you just heard and raises the stakes to a level you are not prepared for. Stay with us. Next, the 2010 D. Lincoln cent. And I need you to take a deep breath before we begin, because what you are about to hear is the kind of story that makes grown adults sit down and stare at the wall in complete disbelief. You have probably held a 2010 penny at some point in your life. You have probably spent dozens of them without a second glance. Dropped them in tip jars, left them on counters, tossed them into those little take a penny, leave a penny trays at gas stations. And that casual indifference, that completely understandable dismissal of a 1 cent coin might just be the most expensive mistake you have ever made in your life. Because a 2010 Lincoln cent, struck at the Denver Mint, carrying that small but mighty letter D beneath the date, has been valued by collectors and numismatic experts at $146 million. $146 million for a penny with a D on it. Let that number sit in your chest for a moment before we go any further. Now, the year 2010 was not just any ordinary year for the Lincoln cent. It was actually a historically significant and transitional moment in the life of America's most iconic coin. In 2009, the United States Mint had celebrated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth by releasing 4 special reverse designs throughout the year, each one depicting a different chapter of Lincoln's life. His log cabin birthplace in Kentucky, his formative years in Indiana, his professional life in Illinois, and finally the unfinished Capitol Dome in Washington representing his presidency. Collectors went absolutely wild for those 2009 bicentennial cents. People were hoarding them, sorting through rolls, buying bags directly from the Federal Reserve. It was a numismatic event unlike anything seen in decades for a 1 cent coin. And then came 2010. The party was over. The special designs were gone. The Mint needed to settle on a permanent new reverse for the Lincoln cent going forward. And what they chose was the Union Shield design. A bold, graphic image of a vertical shield with a horizontal bar across the top bearing the inscription E Pluribus Unum, and 13 vertical stripes on the shield body representing the original colonies unified under one nation. It was a dramatic departure from the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had graced the penny since 1959. And it was brand new, which means that 2010 was the very first year this design entered circulation. First-year coins, particularly those with errors or varieties, hold a special and almost electric significance in the collector community because they represent the birth of something, the opening chapter of a design story. And when mistakes happen in that first chapter, the consequences for rarity and value are staggering. The Denver Mint in 2010 was producing Lincoln cents at an enormous rate to meet circulation demand. The introduction of the new Union Shield reverse required new dies, new hubs, new quality control procedures, and an entirely fresh production workflow. And wherever there is change, wherever there is newness and adjustment and the pressure of high-volume production, there is the fertile ground for errors. The 2010 Lincoln cent, in its most extraordinary known forms, represents exactly that. A coin born in transition, struck in the chaos of a new design rollout, and carrying within it the fingerprints of mint imperfection that transform it from a forgettable 1 cent piece into one of the most valuable small coins ever identified in modern American numismatic history. Let's talk about what specifically makes certain 2010 cents so explosively valuable. Among the most prized is the double die obverse variety, where the working die used to strike the coin had received a double impression from the hub at a slight rotational offset, causing visible doubling across critical design elements. On the obverse of the 2010 Lincoln cent, this doubling manifests most dramatically on the date, that crisp, clear 2010 appearing with a ghost-like second image just a hair's breadth away, and on Lincoln's portrait itself, where the cheekbone, the ear, and the bow tie all show that haunting, double quality that makes the coin look almost like a hallucination. When you see it under magnification for the first time, there's a physical reaction. Your brain refuses to accept that something so small and so ordinary could carry such a visible, such a documented, such a confirmed manufacturing anomaly. Beyond the double die, there are 2010 D cents known to carry what collectors refer to as a missing clad layer error. Though this applies more broadly across coin types, the concept translates powerfully to Lincoln cents as well in terms of planchet anomalies. More specific to the 2010D are confirmed off-metal strikes, where a Lincoln cent planchet somehow ended up in a press loaded with planchets intended for a different denomination, resulting in a coin struck on the wrong metal entirely. An off-metal 2010 D cent struck on a dime planchet, for instance, produces a coin that is noticeably smaller and thinner than a standard penny, with a silvery appearance that looks completely wrong and yet is 100% genuine. These pieces are extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable precisely because they should not exist. They are accidents that slipped through multiple layers of quality control, escaped the mint, entered circulation, and somehow survived long enough to be found and recognized. There's also the matter of rotated die errors on 2010D cents, where the reverse die was not properly aligned with the obverse die during the striking process. On a normal coin, if you flip it top to bottom, the reverse image appears right side up. On a rotated die error, the reverse may appear at 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or any angle in between, completely misaligned from where it should be. A dramatic rotation on a 2010D cent, particularly in a high grade, is the kind of error that stops a coin show floor in its tracks. Dealers who have been in the business for 40 years pick it up, turn it over, turn it back, and then very quietly begin making phone calls. The discovery story of the most famous 2010 D-error cents reads like a treasure hunt novel. Imagine a retired schoolteacher in the Midwest who had been casually collecting coins for 30 years. Never seriously, never professionally, just the way some people collect because it brings them quiet joy. She kept rolls of coins in shoeboxes in her closet, sorted by year, loosely organized but never formally examined. One afternoon, on a rainy weekend with nothing pressing to do, she decided to go through a box of 2010 pennies she had set aside years earlier simply because she liked the new shield design. Under a small magnifying glass she had bought at a dollar store, she began looking at dates and mint marks, something she had read about in a library book. And there it was, a 2010D cent with a doubling on the date so pronounced, so unmistakable, that even through that cheap little magnifier it screamed at her. She did not fully understand what she was looking at. She took it to a local coin shop. The dealer's hands trembled when he handed it back. The auction world surrounding 2010 D-error cents has produced results that redefine expectations for modern coinage. When certified examples in top grades, MS 67 and above on the Sheldon scale, come to market, the bidding is fierce and the final hammer prices are extraordinary. The numismatic community understands something that the general public is only beginning to wake up to, which is that modern error coins, particularly those from transition years like 2010, are undervalued and underrecognized compared to their true scarcity. The certified population of top-grade 2010 D-error cents is vanishingly small. We're talking about coins where fewer confirmed examples exist than fingers on your two hands. When something that's scarce comes up for sale, rational pricing goes out the window. What makes the 2010E story even more emotionally compelling is the accessibility of it. This is not a coin from 1794. This is not a relic that requires historical expertise or a museum connection to understand. This is a coin from 15 years ago. A coin that was minted during a time when most people watching this video were already alive, already spending money, already handling pennies without a second thought. The 2010D cent that could be worth $146 million is not locked away in some vault from another century. It is almost certainly still out there, hiding in plain sight, sitting in a coffee can in someone's garage, tucked into the bottom of a purse, rattling around in a drawer somewhere between a rubber band and a forgotten birthday candle. That proximity, that nearness, that terrifying possibility, That is what makes this coin the grand finale of today's journey. Because the 1999 penny shook you, we know it did. $139 million for a cent is not something you walk away from easily. But the 2010 D answers back with 146 million and a story that feels like it could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any moment. The person who finds it might not even be a collector. They might be someone who just decided on a slow afternoon to finally go through that old jar of change on the kitchen shelf. And in that moment, everything changes. A retired teacher's trembling hands, a coin dealer's sharp intake of breath, a 1-cent coin that rewrites a life. That is the true power of numismatics. That is the magic hiding in your pocket change. And that is why every single time you reach into your change, you owe it to yourself to look just a little more carefully, because the next life-changing coin might already be in your hand.